views expressed on this episode of the Came to Believe Recovery podcast do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Recovery Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this episode should not be taken as medical, psychological, or professional advice and are those of the host, co-host, and guests. KHLT and Take 12 Recovery Radio are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship. Well, greetings, my friends. I am the Monty'man from Take 12 Recovery Radio, and this is the Came to Believe Recovery Podcast. And now, here are your Came to Believe Recovery podcasting broadcasters to launch us forth on this week's show.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Came to Believe Recovery podcast. I am Alicia, and I am joined today by Monty'man. It's just the two of us today.
Just the two of us.
Just the two of us.
Oh my gosh, our brains go. We're synced together. It's going to be a good show.
Yes, it is. Tom is on an airplane coming back from San Diego back to New Jersey because they did another Salvation Army retreat.
Yeah.
Which we heard was fabulous, but we could not go or chose not to go. But Monty was sick. Yeah. Really sick. You might hear it in his voice.
Still got some sniffles a little bit.
Yes.
But we're back.
And I had a car show to go to with my husband that was on the book, so I had to do that. So, but there'll be more Salvation Army retreats.
Yes, there will be. Yes, there
that
will
we
be.
can go to. Yes.
So I think we got to do
but
this.
But first, it's time for the Came to Believe Recovery Icebreaker.
Yeah. So I got some little fun to do here today for the icebreaker. There we go. Okay, so few people probably paid a whole lot of attention to the sound clip in the beginning when the disclaimer came on, right? Did you recognize that? I may be dating myself here once again. Did you recognize the music?
I don't think I was really paying attention.
So I'm going to give you an opportunity and the listeners an opportunity to hear it, a piece of it again. And what we're going to do, Alicia, is I'm going to give away a 3 CD set of the best of the Came to Believe Recovery podcast so far. Okay. So this is going to go to the third email. So don't worry about when you're listening to this. If you're listening to this a week after it airs, don't not email, because sometimes people say, well, there's no way I'm going to win that. There's so many people will chime in. Sometimes nobody does. So do it, but jump on it as soon as you can. So the third email, and this is the email address, TAKE, the number 12, radio at Comcast.net. That's take 12 radio at Comcast.net. Be the third email and simply say, I want my best of Came to Believe. And that's all you got to say, something like that. And make sure you send us your contact information so I can send the 3 CD set to you. So you can have that. So you can, drive in your car or whatever. If you would prefer a flash drive of those, just let me know. We can throw you a flash drive as well. So here is a piece of that sound clip, and you've got to guess it right, of course, as the third email. So here we go. There it is. There it is. Now, I'm not going to tell you what that is until next week. I'll tell you
and
next
I'm
week.
sure not going to, because I don't know what it is.
Did it sound familiar, though?
It sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Is it? And you said it's from a show?
It's a theme song to a television series.
Okay.
Yes. I will give you a clue. It is a comedic series. It's a comedy. But that's all I'll tell you.
That's it. No
So
more.
be the third email at take12radio@comcast.net and tell me that you want your best of Came to Believe and guess what the theme song is. Now, obviously, if you're the third email and you get the guess wrong, it'll go to the next email and that kind of thing. That's why I encourage you to send it in. And so you don't want to miss out on that. So that just kind of wraps it up for the icebreaker. Do we want to, does your t-shirt say anything this week?
It does, actually.
Okay. So what does Alicia's t-shirt say?
It's hard to read, and I don't know why they put black on purple. But it says, been there, conquered that.
Ooh, I like that. Been there, conquered that.
Yeah, but the colors are wrong, but I still wear it. But
Yeah,
yes,
that's cool. That's better than
kind of
been there, done that. Yeah.
Been there, conquered that.
Ooh, some good positive affirmation in a fashion design.
I know on Tuesdays when we record, I have to think like, oh, I need to have something on my shirt.
Yes.
And something that I have not worn yet.
Yes, because we
But
like to guess. We
Yeah.
like to guess what's on Alicia's t-shirt.
Yes.
All
Always
right.
something.
So, okay, we're going to take a short break, and we come back. We're going to talk about the topic, habits. Habits.
Gotta have them.
Is that what the nuns wear? No, that's a,
Oh.
what is that
that's a
called?
habit. Well, yeah,
Habit?
that's a
Is that
habit.
called a habit?
Maybe that's a 2B habit, and this is
Okay.
a 1B habit.
All right, so if you're one of our Catholic friends, email me and let me know, because I've always wondered about that.
We
Habit?
could Google it.
Or Google it. Yeah, but does Google always tell the truth? I don't know.
Probably about the habit they would.
Probably about that. Yeah, it's not life shattering, right? Okay, we'll be back. That does it for the icebreaker. Thank you so much for listening. And we'll be back right after this. Hey there, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's show, a production of the world's oldest recovery talk and recovery music radio station, Take 12 Recovery Radio. But did you know that we have thousands of archive shows, recovery workshops, and recovery music, all available for you for fun and for free? So here's an idea. Right after this show, visit our website at take12radio.com and subscribe on any of the podcasting platforms listed there. Why not begin enjoying the best in recovery talk and recovery music, all at take12radio.com on your internet dial.
This is Roger McDermott, and you're listening to the recovery talk and positive music of Take 12 Recovery Radio.
Welcome back to the show. You've tuned in to Take 12 Recovery Radio's production of the Came to Believe Recovery podcast. Please visit the Came to Believe Recovery website at cametobelieverecovery.org to find out more about really what I think is an incredibly powerful 12-step focused ministry and solution-based website movement, really going back to the original way things were done when the success rates in Alcoholics Anonymous were their highest. Right, Alicia?
Yes, sir. That is true.
And we've gotten into some bad habits, have we not, with some of the watered-down methods that have come as of late. But we're not going to be talking about that so much today as we are these habits that so easily beset us. And I thought, if I may, give you a definition, listeners, of the difference between a habit and an addiction. And this comes from relevancerecovery.com. The main distinction between a habit and an addiction is loss of control. With a habit, you remain in control of your actions and can choose to stop the behavior if needed. An addiction, on the other hand, involves a craving that becomes uncontrollable, often continuing the behavior even when there are negative consequences. Would you agree with that, Alicia?
Yes.
You seem a little hesitant.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to think of. Yeah, that is true. But then people would say, well, then how can you switch and stop the addiction and put habits into place? If you're addicted, you're kind of stuck there. Wouldn't they think that forever?
Well, I think without a form of intervention from on high, you are stuck there. Mm-hmm. If you are truly addicted. I mean, we talk about the difference between an alcoholic and a heavy drinker, or an alcoholic and an alcohol abuser. They're two different animals. The alcoholic actually has a chemical imbalance which makes them allergic to the substance that causes the phenomenon of craving when they drink, or the obsession to drink when they're stone cold sober, whereas the heavy drinker or the alcohol abuser doesn't necessarily experience that. It's more of a habit with them, and if they have a good enough reason to stop, they can stop. The Big Book talks about that. You know, hey, if you got a good enough reason to stop, you have the power to stop. So if you've lost the power, now you've entered in the world of addiction. I'm not so sure when it comes to alcoholism. I don't want to go down a rabbit trail here, but that alcoholism is something you develop by abusing alcohol, like narcotics would be. I think you either have the genetic disposition or you don't, whereas with narcotics, you can develop it. So you could have a habit of using a narcotic and it turn into an addiction, to where you have no control. With alcohol, on the other hand, if you're alcoholic, you're alcoholic. You either have it or you don't. At least that's what the science is saying at this point in time. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
I wonder how it is then with food and sugar, because there's so many people that are addicted to sugar, whether they know it or not, or want to use that word or not. I mean, look at our world. And there's actually scientists made or paid to make processed food addictive. Yep. I mean, how is that even legal?
Right.
So whether you are born genetically addicted or not, they are going to make you addicted.
They're going to. And I think it's the same thing like with the narcotics thing. I think you may not be born with a genetic disposition to being addicted to sugar, but you certainly can develop an addiction to sugar to where you've lost control, right?
Right.
And they're not helping matters, but they've been doing it for years. Look at the tobacco industry. Mm-hmm. Hundreds of carcinogens within your average cigarette, right? Besides just the tar and the nicotine, all designed to make you chemically dependent upon the substance. So you will continue to purchase it.
Exactly. And then isn't it, what's the word? Interesting that once the cigarettes kind of got a bad rap, those big wigs went to processed food.
They sure did.
And now we're all suffering from that, because that's where the money is. And then it just infuriates me because, and I'm included in that. I mean, I suffered with eating disorders. We're being duped and we keep buying it and we keep eating it.
Yeah.
And it just is like, what is going on? And it just, that's a whole other rabbit hole. That's a whole other show.
Even when it comes to organic, you got to be careful. I mean, if you're one of these folks that is strictly consuming organic foods, you really better do your homework.
Yeah, I heard that that's a whole other thing it's not. They can buy the word by
Yes.
loopholes, right? And
Yes.
they're like, it's not organic, but if they have one little thing, then they can say they're organic, right? Or something like
Yeah.
that. Do you know much about
So
it?
the terminology that I saw on a package of, what was it? I think it was raisins and dates or something like that. It said organic based.
Oh,
And I thought, oh,
that's how they
so
get it in
it's
there.
got a baseline of organic to it, right? Maybe the soil that it was that the plants were grown in were organic, but they left out the pesticides that it was sprayed with, but it was organically based. It started out that way. Yeah, wording is everything. And so I was talking to years ago. There was a little vegetable stand down the street that was run by a group of Mennonite folks, and they were saying, "Look, you just can't go to the store and buy organic. You've got to know what kind of soil it was in. You got to know what kind of fertilizer they used. I mean, it's a whole thing from the time that it's planted to the time that it hits the shelf. Does it remain organic from step one or from A to Z? If it doesn't, it's not organic. That's a lot of work. And I think what you're saying is we've been duped, and we keep, even though we're so duped that we know we're duped and we keep doing it, is because we're addicted to convenience. Right? What's one melon that's been sprayed with pesticides? Probably won't kill me. Besides the grocery store is only a block away versus across town at the Mennonite organic shop, right? So I'm going to go to the store here. I mean, it's that kind of mentality where, our convenience, our society of convenience has really messed us up. Look at the convenient fast food industry.
It's ridiculous. Don't get me started. Yes, I know. And it's it's bad. It's just bad. And it's getting worse, and it's our laziness. We want instant gratification. We feel entitled. Then we use self-justification. All our defects of character are coming out.
Man. So, in your talking points, you put identify the bad habits. How do we do this? How do you do that?
How do we do that?
I mean, you can't fix what you don't acknowledge. So I suppose you have to acknowledge it first, right? That you have an issue.
Exactly. So identifying the bad ones, that comes into, I mean, whether it's addictive related or not, right? We need to be honest. We need to be honest. We need to have people around us, maybe a sponsor, hopefully, or someone in the weekly groups that we go to, maybe a spouse, whether they're in the realm of addiction or not, that can honestly point them out to us. But I would think if we're completely honest, Monty, we could identify our bad habits.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, that's the key. If we're completely honest, so I'm going
Right.
to tell on myself.
Okay.
So last night, oh boy,
Oh, here he goes.
oh boy, you're the wrong person I should be telling this to. Okay, last night I went to the because I've been sick, right? Last night I went to the cupboard and I wanted to make sure I got good sleep. So I pulled down my bottle of ZQuil made by Vicks. And I drank the little shot. It comes in a shot glass. I just love that. See, only a recovered alcoholic would even point that out. And so I take my ZQuil, and Marcia says to me, she goes, you take that way too often. And this was my response. Look what it says on the bottle. It says non-habit forming. That was now, I said it tongue in cheek because I knew she was right. Right? But there's a prime example. They're going to make sure they put non-habit forming on there, right? So that gives you permission to probably consume more of it than you ought to.
Is it true that there is traces of alcohol in NyQuil, like they say?
Depends on which one you get. You can get the non-alcohol one, or you can get the one that has 10%. It used to have 25% years ago, alcohol in it, and people would make, recovery comedians would make the joke, after 2 a.m. when the bars close, you can still go to the 7-Eleven and get your shot at.
Well, that's true. I remember there was a guy from a past retreat that was drinking bottles of NyQuil. That was part of his problem.
Yeah. So 25% is certainly high. 10% would be. I mean, there are some people that the way their body processes alcohol is so severe that if they even smell it, they start to develop cravings.
So let's
go ahead.
Go back to that point. So that is like someone in our lives showing us maybe a bad habit, right?
Yeah.
But so then what do you do with that information? Do you like say, well, have I been doing it too much? Or what are you going to do with that information?
I think that's if you truly are somebody that's practicing the principles found in the steps, that would demand that you look at that. That would require me going, which I did think about it, quite a bit after she said that. It's like, okay, the substance itself of the ZQuil may not be habit forming, but what about the behavior of reaching for it every night at 9:30 or whatever? Could that be habit forming? Yes, I think so. And so for those of us who have dealt with addiction issues, I think that is cause for concern. Not that the NyQuil might do anything, but just the fact that you're getting in that mindset of becoming dependent. Okay, it's time to take the ZQuil, right?
It's a habit. You're building a new habit.
It's a habit. And so I think the thing, we have no more in the cupboard. So I think the thing that would be highly suggested of myself is to, well, don't even buy it. And unless something comes up and you've got insomnia and your doctor say, because Marcia asked me, she goes, I wonder what your doctor would say about that. And I went, well, I mean, I'd probably have to ask her, well, are you going to? And I said, yeah, okay, I will. And I will.
See, that's good. I was going to ask you more about that, but you kind of just answered me.
Yeah, and I am going to
your wife. Like you didn't get angry and defensive, right? Because that shows, okay, there is an issue.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But I think that's huge because she went out of her way to say something, out of love, I'm sure.
Yep.
And so we need to be open to. If someone in our life is saying it, and of course it matters who it is and how, the context, but she loves you and maybe there was no issue, but she just wants to say it out loud to make sure that you're okay.
And I think, I think that's the beauty about accountability. Are there people in our lives that have permission to yank on our chain anytime they want to, even if they're wrong? Without us getting defensive, because I'd rather you be mistaken or wrong about the issue than be right and not say anything. 'Cause I'll get over the offense, but I might not get over the hospital stay. You know what I mean? Or the ultimate, having a stroke or something. If you're guzzling 10% NyQuil, you're probably headed down. Even if you're not an alcoholic, you're probably heading down a slippery slope. I mean, that can't be good for you.
Right. And then you can start getting to the root of the problem. Okay, why aren't I sleeping? Let's go there. Not just NyQuil.
Ooh, that's
a Band-Aid.
Why aren't I sleeping? Yeah.
Why aren't you sleeping? Well, you were sick, though.
Yeah.
But maybe there's something else. Maybe you need to go to bed earlier. Maybe you need to eat better. That's always my answer. Maybe, it could be something else. But if you
Sure.
keep doing NyQuil, 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 we'll never get to the root.
I had years ago, and I haven't dealt with clinical depression in decades, but I was going through a bout of that, and I was so fortunate to get a nurse practitioner who really knew her stuff. And I was like, where's this coming from? And so she said, she goes, okay, what I want you to do, she goes, you have a dog, right? I said, yeah. Because I want you to walk your dog every night, just for 15 minutes, like in the evening after dinner, just walk your dog. Do you walk your dog? I go, not very much. Just do that. And get back to me. Let me know how it goes. And so I did. And it did seem to kind of change my attitude a little bit. But I was still, I was having these headaches. Right. And so Marcia was sitting there next to me, and Diane was her name. Diane says, how late do you eat at night? And I said, well, we eat dinner about 5 o'clock. She goes, what about after that? I go, no. And Marcia elbowed me, right? And she looked at Diane, and she says, he has a small bowl of ice cream around 9 o'clock. And Diane looked at me and she goes, okay, I'm not going to take your ice cream away, but have it after lunch. And get back to me in a week. You know what? The headaches went away. Right?
Look at
Because I
that.
was eating
Yeah.
sugar, and then I was going to bed. It was causing headaches. And so what didn't you see here? You didn't see a prescription of medication, right? You saw a prescription of changing behavior. Wow, what a concept. What can we do to break these bad habits let's keep it simple. Let's start out simple. You don't have to be popping Thorazine to control your behavior necessarily. There's a place for that in trauma therapy and that kind of thing. But I wonder how many alcoholics and addicts who've only been sober for a short time, and they're being prescribed medications before they ever detoxed. You know what I'm saying? It's concerning to me. So I think you're right. I think we have to look at, first of all, we got to acknowledge it, and secondly, what are we going to do with it? What are we going to change? Because nothing changes if nothing changes.
Right. I have an example going back to your example of spouse. I had a history in my past with eating disorders and hiding and lying. And my husband knows, because I told him since then, that I used to just do things that in my life were like normal, but like leave a plate on the sink at night so he thinks I ate, and he won't even ask me. And so sometimes, he maybe in a month ago, I ate before he got home, and it was kind of like a red flag for him. And so he said something. He's like, did you, because the plate was there. Did you eat? I'm like, yeah, but look at the plate. And he said, well, did you really eat? That could really trigger me, right? But I get it. And
Yeah.
I did eat. I did. So I was like, oh, yeah, I did. I really did. But it's like, if it was just you wouldn't even ask me.
Right.
Because you wouldn't know that history.
No. Yeah.
And I want him to check. I've told him in the past of like, you kiddingly, but not like you might, because he eats, I'm pretty much 90% carnivore, and there's trigger foods in my house because he eats them, and nuts can be highly addictive and triggering for me. So kiddingly, I said, you might want to like measure the nuts in the cupboard once in a while, just kiddingly. But it's true.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't say that, I would just eat them, buy more, replace them, and he would not know. But I kind of want that check.
Sure. Wow.
And
Well, because you just something pinged in my head when you said, count the nuts. I'm thinking for some of us, it's count the Vicodin,
right.
right? Or the codeine
Yeah.
tablets or
Whatever the
whatever.
thing is.
Yeah. Um,
The
yeah. I
liquor.
I had a sponsor that told me one time years ago. He says, if you're counting your pain meds, you're in trouble.
To see how many are left.
Yeah. Yeah. If you as the person in recovery are counting them, how many times are you going to count those today? It's kind of like watching the clock. When can I take him next? When can I take him next? Kind of thing. You made a statement, and he's talking. I really like this about making new habits. You said, "Don't need to be motivated. You need to have discipline." What do you mean by that? I mean, I love that. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. I feel that people use excuses so often, and they're just so normal for us to say, and me included, that if we stop and think, like, does that even make sense? Like, well, I can't go to the gym, or I can't eat. Of course, I'm using those examples. I can't start using prayer and meditation in step 11. I just don't feel it. I'm just not motivated.
Ah,
And so it's like, you don't need to be motivated you're not motivated to get up when your alarm goes off and go to work. You just do it
But you
because
do it.
you know it's beneficial and you need to go to work or you're going to get fired.
yep.
But because we can justify it and it works for us, because if I say I'm not motivated, then I don't have to go to the gym. And it works. So we need to catch ourselves, even if we're thinking it or saying it, or have other people catch us and say, that's nice, you're not motivated, and do it anyways. You can use discipline, which will build a new habit. Well, that's why it's kind of in this realm, because we need to build a new habit. And when
Yeah.
we don't want to do it is when we need to do it the most.
Yes. Yes. And this covers a whole gamut of things in the world of recovery. So I've got a sponsee that he is so busy doing good stuff that it's going to hurt him. Because he doesn't have any time for recreation. He has no time. Just, he has, most of the people I work with have too much me time. This guy doesn't have any. And I told him, I said, listen, every therapist worth their weight that is counseling you, if you're dealing with life issues, is going to ask, what do you do for you? What do you do recreationally? I
What
noticed
do you
in your
do for
budget.
fun?
What do you
Right?
do for fun? I know in your budget you have nothing for recreation, and it's so vitally important. But so this is what he says to me: when do I have time? I said, well, let me tell you something. God has a way of getting your attention, and He will make time for you. I remember when I was just I was in workaholic mode, just go, 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 go. I wasn't saying no to anything, and I had to have my hips replaced. And I caught MRSA, and I was on IV medications for like 8 months. And God got my attention. And I'm not saying He caused the MRSA or nothing like that, but I'm telling you, He took the opportunity for a lot of me and God time, because I couldn't go anywhere. I was on oxygen, walking around the house with the tube, and it was like the Lord was saying, okay, now do I have your attention? You and I need to talk. And so we make these excuses. I don't have time. I've got kids. I've got this. I've got that. It's really something that you hear a lot of people in ministry talk about. Where do I have time for just my devotional life? Well, unless it becomes, and here's the good habit thing, unless it becomes a priority, you won't make time for it. I mean, you'll never find the time, right? You'll have to make the time. You have to make the time.
Exactly. You need to make the time. And we're in control of our schedule. I know there's some people, I mean, that may be in extreme poverty and they really need to work 3 jobs.
Yeah.
I get that. But most of us are not in that boat. We are in control of our schedule, and there's always something we can shift. We don't have to say yes all the time. A lot of us are on Instagram and watching 5 hours of TV at night. Maybe get rid of that. Or there's always time for what's important. And we would be troopers to say, God is important. We need to put him in there somewhere.
Yeah.
If he's the ruler of our life and we're giving our lives and our everything to him, then we can't give him 10 minutes
Right.
at least.
Right.
Start there and then you can build upon it. And I'm in that boat. I mean, I'm in that boat too of, well,
God, I'm doing your work. I'm doing your work, Lord.
exactly. I justify it. Like, well, I read the Bible with my husband and came to believe, but where's my one-on-one time? Just me
Yeah.
and him. It,
I had
yeah.
a friend tell me one time, he says, have you ever stopped to think that your Heavenly Father misses you? Ouch.
Do you? See, my head would go, nah, he's got a lot of other people. He doesn't need me.
Yeah.
He doesn't miss me.
So I want to speak to people that are in residential treatment programs, recovery programs, Victory Outreach, Teen Challenge, Salvation Army, even the secular programs up here at Serenity Lane and DePaul Treatment Center, things like that. I want to speak to you guys for a minute and just tell you that you right now, because you're in a controlled environment, particularly the faith-based programs, more than likely they are going to have scheduled devotional time for you, set aside for you. And I'm telling you, you may never again have that dedicated time given to you to help develop your personal relationship with God that you have right now. To be able to shut out the rest of the world and really focus on my recovery, my relationship with God, and my relationship with myself and all that, to be able to shut out the rest of the world and be committed for 6 months, 1 year, whatever your program is, consider yourself blessed. It is an amazing time in your life. I know it's hard. I know you miss your family. I know you can't wait to graduate so you can make up for all that lost time. As you used to be a bad dad, now you're a good dad. Whatever the reasonings are, take advantage of this time to really soak up these committed time sets of devotion and worship. I mean, it's easy to just take it for granted, but don't.
And then they're building, whether they realize it or not, they're building new habits by doing that. So hopefully when they leave, they can put it in their schedule somewhere because they reaped the benefits from it. Hopefully they can see that, and then they want to keep it when they leave.
Yeah.
And maybe not as much time because now they'll probably be working full time and have a family around them, but they can put it somewhere in their schedule.
Why do you think people, and we see it all the time, maybe they've been incarcerated for over a year and, it used to be you could smoke in jail. You can't do that anymore. And so they're tobacco free for a year, or they're in a residential program and they're tobacco free. And all that time's gone by, so the physical cravings are gone. Why do they go back to smoking? Is it because the obsession hasn't been removed? I always scratch my head when I see people that have quit smoking, especially if it's been 2 or 3 years, and now they're free, and the first thing they do is go buy a pack of cigarettes. What is up with that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm,
The habit, trying to fill the void. They're free. Now they can do whatever they want.
yeah,
I mean, it depends, I guess, on the person.
right.
Um,
I think it speaks to untreated obsession in that area, maybe.
yeah. Well, I think if it's not smoking, it's food. And if it's not food, it's volunteering. And if it's not volunteering, it's cleaning your house or shopping on Amazon or
Yeah,
I think we all have something that we kind of run to, if not a couple things. And again,
sure.
it comes to that honesty of like, what am I filling my void with? Good
Yeah,
or bad, and just look at it and then see like, is it a problem or not?
right, right. I think a lot of times inappropriate behaviors start with inappropriate desires. So if you're 6 months into your residential program and you haven't smoked that whole time, are you still thinking about, yeah, boy, I can't wait till I get a cigarette?
They probably are.
Yeah, yeah. So you say change your bad attitude before it becomes a bad habit. So there you go.
Yeah.
You know,
Bad attitude, or it could be just your thoughts. We need to look at our thoughts of if their thoughts are, let's just stay on that analogy. I can't wait to get out of here. I can't wait to get out of here. I'm going to buy cigarettes. I'm going to go buy cigarettes. And
yeah,
they're telling themselves they're going to do that because that's their thoughts are leading to their action. But if they were more like, I'm going to stay clean. Why do I need cigarettes? It's actually going to save me a lot of money if I'm not smoking and I can get healthier. And then they're
yeah.
going to go this way. So it's our thoughts that lead to our
So,
bad habits.
being that we're talking about the smoking thing, the risk of sounding like a rabbit trail, I got to bring this up. So I have a buddy of mine. He's one of my sponsees, and he told me, he says, "Hey, Monty, it's been like 8 months since I've had a cigarette." And I said, "Congratulations, man." I said, "So let me ask you a question. Are you vaping?" He said, "Yeah, that's next. That's the thing I'm going to quit next." And so I referred, when I was talking to him yesterday, I referred to a buddy of mine who is I don't know if he still is, but he was the head of the department for the tobacco initiative for Boston Medical Center. And I had him on the show several times a few years back, and we talked about the difference between nicotine use and vaping, or tar nicotine and all the carcinogens in cigarettes and vaping. You could have smoked tobacco for years. And if you put it down within a 2-year period, you look at your lungs, you would swear you never smoked. They will rejuvenate, they will heal themselves. It's an amazing thing that the human body will do when you remove the tobacco and the carcinogens from the tobacco. Vaping, however, is once the damage is done, it's not repairable. And so our lungs have these little pockets of air. If you ever look at a lung, right, you got these little pockets of air, and the the little pockets fill up with oxygen or whatever you're inhaling, right? And the chemical compound, i.e., jet fuel, that's in vape actually causes these pockets to expand. And when they expand, the walls of those pockets become thinner. And then they also become more susceptible to pneumonia and anything that happens to hit them, right? The thing about this is that they don't go back down. They stay expanded. So they call that popcorn lung. And so when you're vaping, if that's happening, there's no going back. You're causing damage that won't reverse itself, is how it was explained to me. It would be better if you stopped vaping and picked up the cigarettes again. That's how big of a problem it is. Because people, and we're talking about developing new habits, a lot of people go from cigarettes to vaping thinking that they're starting a better habit. At least I'm not smoking, right? Because mentally you're thinking, well, I mean, I don't stink anymore. It doesn't smell with people around me. It looks kind of cool with all the genie clouds. Uh, it's got different flavors, but
Yeah.
at least I'm not smoking. So I think we have to be careful when we think we're doing something better and it's actually just as bad or worse. And so there's my 2 cents about the vaping thing. Bet some of you guys didn't know that.
No, actually, well, I've thought about it because my husband vapes and my mom started vaping.
Oh boy.
And so, and my husband is like, well, it's not cigarettes, but it's just like, yeah, but
Yeah.
not good,
Yeah.
but there's only so much I can say
Sure.
without making him mad or whatever, because he knows, but me, Miss Disciplined Alicia here, would see it as like, if it's used as a bridge, right? They plan on stopping. So they went to cigarettes and now it's vaping, but their plan is to get rid of it. It's just a bridge right now. Then, okay. But he didn't, not to throw my husband under the bridge, but he never planned on stopping.
Oh.
And he still doesn't plan on stopping. And in my head, I would never say this out loud to him because he probably already knows. He is so, anybody in any addiction is so controlled by that vape. We read the Bible every morning and it's right there, and he'll go to the bathroom and I can hear it. And it's just like, wow, it's controlling him.
Yeah.
And other people, and that's whatever the thing is. It's just fascinating to watch and then have it. My husband, and I want him to stop, but if he doesn't want to, that's a tough one.
And so I guess thinking about my question, why would somebody go back after they stopped for so many months? That's thinking logically. That's thinking reasonably, right? But obsession doesn't conform to reason. And so if you still have the obsession, even after 6 months, it's not going to conform to reason. You could put all the facts from the Boston Medical Center out in front of your husband or
He's not
whoever,
like-
right?
yeah.
And if they're living with an obsession, they're gonna go, yeah, I agree. But the addiction or the obsession with the addiction is not going to conform to that. It's
No.
just not.
No.
And that's why people do destructive things and everybody shakes their head and go, there's no reason why they should do that. Yeah, there's always a reason. And sometimes it's an obsession and that doesn't conform to reason.
Right. Obsession and addiction, right? Because in the past, I was taking phentermine and all the diet drugs and all the stuff, and I knew I could die. I knew it could stop my heart.
Wow.
So what? I don't care. I did
Yeah.
not care one bit. I'm like, then I'll die. At least I'll be skinny. That's what I was living by. I swear.
Wow.
God.
Wow.
Yes. So I think, and it's all self-justification, right? And denial.
Yeah.
And we all probably do it still in some regards of something.
So how does, as we start to wind down here, how does living in the go, which if listeners, if you're not familiar what we're talking about literally applying and implementing the principles in step 10, 11, and 12, right? How does living in the go and living in steps 10, 11, and 12 on a daily basis, how does that help in this arena of developing new habits?
Staying in 10, 11, and 12. With 10, it's continuing to look at myself, right? And I have a sponsor I call every week, and it keeps me in check. And if I'm just completely honest, like, how am I doing? How am I doing with my thoughts and my food? And how am I dealing with with stress and stuff, if it's getting a little sketchy, am I calling my sponsor? Am I doing one-on-one time? Am I praying? How is my prayer life going? Am I in service? And then, yeah, but just with the honesty, because even in doing that, because I would say, yes, I do 10, 11, and 12, you know, because
Right.
I'm disciplined. But I could still have little things going on that I'm just not going to pray about, or I'm not going to tell my sponsor about. So that's the parts that we really need to be honest with,
Yeah.
you know, on
Yeah.
whatever it is. But I think that's what it is like stay in 10, 11, and 12 with complete honesty and integrity, and have people call you out on, you know, but as an addict, I'm sure you can agree, I could look fine. I know all the words.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm really not.
Yeah. There was a Christian contemporary song years ago, and I don't remember who sang it or the name of it, but one of the verses in it said something like, "They don't know where I go when I fall down. Inside this warrior, there's a child." You know, and man, I would hear that and I would think, wow, yeah, most people don't know how, you know, what a scared little boy I really am in some areas of my life. You know, we protect that, right? And I think if we protect that and don't become vulnerable with each other, then it makes it so much more difficult to break through bad habits and even addictions, until we find somebody, you know, that we can be that transparent with. And some people would say, well, you know, Jesus is enough. Just me and Jesus. Well, you know what? You may want to talk to Jesus about that. Because I don't think that's Jesus' thought process. I think he was all about accountability. I think he was all about us being in fellowship and being transparent with each other. You know, Jesus is all I need. Well, there's a lot of stuff under that word all. You know what I mean?
Well, that's like with step 5, right? Why do I have to say it out loud to someone else? I'll just tell Jesus.
Right.
It might not be enough.
Right.
It might not be,
Yeah.
because we can fudge, and Jesus does know all, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to fix any of it because no one else knows.
Yeah. Yeah. True. So in recovery, we talk about, it's all about changing the way you think. And my closing thoughts at the end are going to reflect some of that. So before we do our closing song, any closing thoughts from you, Alicia?
I would say honesty. I think I say that every single show. Be honest.
Good point.
Think of bad habits, if you don't like that word, something in your life that might need to be adjusted.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do about it?
Yeah. Good. Okay. I don't want to make light of the food addiction thing because it's a serious issue, but we don't want to be beating any of you guys up either. But this is just one realm of a very undisciplined lifestyle, especially in this country. And sometimes we need to laugh at ourselves. We really do. So I came across this. This is Tim Hawkins. He is a Christian comedian. And this is pretty hilarious. But within the humor of it, there's a real serious tone here. We can laugh about it, but we need to take it seriously. And this would be with any bad habits or anything that is not healthy for us. But he points out some things in this song that he does. It's a parody on Billy Joel's Piano Man. It's entitled The Buffet Man. And it's in reference to eating at places like the Golden Corral, the all-you-can-eat Um, yeah, I'll just say
Buffet.
that. Yeah, the buffet. It's called the Buffet Man, and I want you to have fun with it, but I really want you to consider what he's saying here, and then my closing thoughts at the end. Here's Tim Hawkins with the Buffet Man.
It's 4 o'clock on a Saturday. A regular crowd waddles in, and there's an old man. He's at the register, an early bird with a quadruple chin. He says, "Miss, I don't need a doggy bag or container made from styrofoam. 'Cause when I get the chance, I shove bread in my pants, and that's the way I take it home." Oh, la 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 da da da, la da 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 da. Bring us a tray of the Buffet Man. Oh, bring us a tray tonight. 'Cause you're salty and you're sweet, and it's all you can eat. We're bloated, but we're feeling alright. And Travis, the chef, he's a friend of mine. He brings me a cinnamon roll. He says, "Tim, I could be the manager, except that I'm still on parole." And Paul is a regular customer, with Pete, his identical twin. And when they walk side by side, they're at least 10 feet wide. Nobody knows how they got in. Buffet Man, oh, bring us a tray tonight. 'Cause you're salty and you're sweet, and it's all you can eat. We're bloated, but we're feeling alright. And it's a pretty good crowd for a Saturday, but the manager is going insane. 'Cause he saw someone sneeze in the fresh mac and cheese. Now he's calling it quiche Lorraine. A pizza, and the music is blaring Adele. Yes, I came in for brunch, and it turned into lunch. How about dinner? Oh, what the? Everybody sing out, la da 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 da. Sing it out, la da 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 da. Bring us a tray of the Buffet Man. Sing it high. Bring us a tray of the Buffet Man. Bring us a tray tonight, salty and sweet, 'cause you're salty and sweet, and it's all you can eat. We're bloated, but we're feeling alright. Hey, thanks so much for coming out. Hope you had a good time. Yeah!
Christian comedian Tim Hawkins. Well, it goes without saying that improper eating habits can do us in. But it's just one of the many compulsivities that human beings deal with. So what are we to do with these bad habits we have developed over time? How do we change our thinking? The truth is, left to our own devices, we don't have sufficient power to make the change in our thinking so vital to develop new positive habits. Well, Pastor John W. Rittenbaugh pens these words. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 26 tells us that we are cleansed with the washing of water by the word. The things that will be cleansed are our minds, things that deal with conduct, things that have to do with character and attitude. And in this passage, these things are cleansed by the water. Here, the word water is symbolic, referring to the Word of God, as well as to the Holy Spirit. We have in the Bible the Word of our God, and Jesus says it contains power. It has power to cleanse a person's mind, because we can think only by what goes into the mind, concepts that are contained in words. Words are merely symbols of ideas that we use to reason. We turn those ideas into action, into conduct, which becomes part of our character and our attitude. In other places in Scripture, the Holy Spirit is compared to water. We are familiar with how we use water to cleanse things. Water is the universal solvent, right? Therefore, we are washed by the water of the Word of God in conjunction with a new nature that is given to us by God through His Spirit. This begins to help us to understand why studying the Word of God is so vitally important. We need those words in us so that we can think according to them as they begin to purify and cleanse the way we are thinking. It's something to think about. Came to Believe Recovery strives to create and promote opportunities for life-changing spiritual experiences for individuals and families suffering from all forms of addiction. For more information, help, and support, visit cametobelieverecovery.org. I'd like to thank you for allowing me to be your host on this episode of the Came to Believe Recovery podcast. And I would encourage you to like, bookmark, and subscribe to this show. When you do, you will join the Take 12 Recovery Radio family and will be notified of all of our recovery-focused shows throughout the week. Until our next broadcast, when we provide the essential spiritual tools needed to thrive by sharing our experience, our strength, and our hope through our stories of how we came to believe.
This has been a production of Take 12 Recovery Radio.
Yeah, kitty, kitty, kitty. Meow.
Woof, woof.
This has been a Chicken and a Pig production.